everyone. My name is Abirambika Ravivarman, and I am super excited and happy for doing this session for all of you in China. I tried to learn this and say it in Mandarin. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Thai Sisi Nila to all of you, to EMCC, for actually enabling me to reach out to all of you and do this session. So I have some slides. I'm going to share slide and then continue to talk. Okay, there you go. So this session is about thriving through change and coaching for individuals and teams. So I am a leadership coach and I'm also a team coach. So whenever I coach anyone, one-on-one sessions, or when I work with teams, change is a big aspect of movement, right? That's what people struggle with. And this session, I'm going to try and show you some methods and ways to work through that. And what do we have for the session? One is introduction and what can you expect? What are some things that you're going to pick up from this session? Understanding the challenges of change in itself, because change is not easy. It takes time, it takes effort. So understanding the challenges of change and what happens when someone has to go through change. The role of coaching in change. So when I'm talking about coaching, also anyone, a change management professional who wants to adapt some aspects of coaching and actually help the clients to move through change, then that's something that we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to be also sharing an interesting framework that I've created, which is called the PIA Dialogue Framework. And that's also something that I'm going to be sharing. And then I'll come live and answer some questions. So that's the agenda for today's session. And like I said, I have been coaching and I have a PCC and ACTC credentials from ICF, but I've been coaching since 2017. So, it's been a fabulous experience for me coaching different people, different teams, and that excites me to keep going. So that's what gives me my high. And I am a founder of Green Mind. So this company is based in India, and right now I am in Toronto, and I am trying to expand into locations as well. So right now I'm talking to you all from Toronto. I'm also, in board of directors of the ICF Toronto chapter. So here we have a huge amount of coaches, and I'm excited to be part of the chapter here as well. And I've authored a book called Lifefulness. It's a book to help through change. It's a transformational journal kind of book. So it's for individuals who are trying to build some transformational moments in their life. And it's a book about that. I practice mindfulness. I study Buddhism, and learning and development and change is what I really focus on. And so far, it's been so exciting, an exciting journey, and that's something that I want to share with all of you today. Now, when we move into change, what are some things that you can expect from this session? One is gain insights into individual change process, what happens with individual change, and co-creation of actions for change. Because as coaches or anyone who's supporting change, right? So how do we co-create actions for the supporting change navigation, supporting transformational change moments in daily lives, which means I'm going to be talking to you all about the larger day, and then having moments, buckets of moments towards this change that we are trying to work on. How do you build that? And then apply, like I said, the PAA dialogue framework into change coaching. Okay. So the first thing, so when you look at this image, you see two types of water, right? One is the calm water metaphor. And I want to start with this by asking calm water or white water rapids, right? What is it? What happens during change process? When we talk about two things, one is change as a rapid change, and one is, incremental change, which is change that happens in moments, and that this change is happening, which is typically more like the calm water metaphor. So it's occasional disruption, or more so a normal life when it comes to change, but there is change that happens even during that time. Whitewater rapid is like, going into this intense river, right? So people go through different, and the reasons why this happens is different situations that demand us, different things that keep happening. But in any aspect, change is common. And how do we adapt to that change? is what we're going to be talking about. Okay. Now, change is hard, right? I want to start by saying or accepting that change is hard. Change has never been easy for anyone, and change is hard. I want to also draw a parallel to why this is so from my Buddhist studies. So when we talk about, life, when we talk about suffering and we talk about things that we are used to, things that we are not used to, right? So why is change hard is because change is suffering, right? In a way, because you have to deal with something which is unknown or something which is new. And that, drives in a way a thought or an emotional trigger in the mind, and that is hard. So how do we deal with that? And why is another aspect of why change is hard is also because we feel the situation that we are in today is permanent, right? So I want to add this, and when I've created the framework, you will hear me say lot more about it, to say how those concepts of impermanence and looking at change, not from an angle of suffering, but also from an angle of what can really evolve for the person, come through as we move forward. But mostly, when you ask anyone, are you ready for change? The first thing is, should I, right? Why should I? Why should I change? What is the need for going through this? That's the first question that people say, and they say change is hard. But we're gonna see if we can do something and support change so that it is not as hard as what we think. And this is again statistics that I've just pulled out from the internet. I had a conversation with ChatGPT and got this. So this is what the fact says. In organizational change, where change is, in larger organizations and teams, 40 to 70% is what they say is the challenge that people face. People struggle or they resist. And that's a stats for the larger organization. And for individuals, there is again resistance. 70 to 90% of people resist change. And why is that? Like I said in the previous slide, change is hard because the mind doesn't accept it. But there are also other reasons why change, you see this, why the statistics shows this way. Here are what are some reasons, right? What makes change difficult? One is a pattern behavior or a habit or a strong belief system. So when we talk about pattern behavior and habits, it's not easy to change a habit because you've been doing it for so long. And just from a neuroscience perspective, what happens when we have a habit of doing something is it becomes so unconscious, right? It becomes so subconscious that even without thinking consciously or being present in that moment, you can still do that activity. For an example, if you say starting to drive, right? The first time when you learn to drive, it's a new thing. So your mind is all alert. When you're driving on the road, you will experience that you're looking in the mirror, you're looking around, you're seeing who's honking, who's walking. You kind of go through everything and then you're driving, right? This is, say, the first few days of driving or first few months of driving. But later, over a period of time, say you've done it for like few years, and now when you get onto the same road in your car or your bike, you will realize you don't have to think so much, right? It just happens. You know who's coming, you don't bother about the honking, you just go and you just start driving. And this is the reason why, from a cognitive work, the mind has now moved to a patterned behavior. So it knows how to do it and it just does it. So this is applicable in literally any situation that we think of, anything that we do. The moment it becomes pattern, then the presence starts to go down, and unless and until you consciously bring in presence, and then your subconscious takes over, and then you start just doing it day in and day out. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up and saying change is difficult is because you have to overcome that patterned behavior because it's so natural, right? Which means when you have to bring in change, you have to bring in presence. You have to bring in conscious effort and thinking to change that and create a new habit or a new pattern. Now, new pattern takes time. Again, once that pattern becomes comfortable and as an habit, then that is also taken over. So it's a tricky thing when it comes to change and when you're trying to shift something, because of working with that from a neuroscience perspective, looking at the brain, how it functions specific to this particular initiative that you're trying to do. Again, strong belief systems, right? Because you believe that this is right or it is not right. I'll give you another example. Now, someone who has never done exercise, right? Who has never exercised before, who's never had any really great health issues or something, and say they've just never done that in the past. But then they keep thinking, you know what, I want to lose weight, I want to become more fit, I want to start exercising. It's a voice in your mind, but then to get that person to actually go there and do it is not as easy. Now, it's a strong belief system, right? That nothing happens. I have never done it. It's never a habit. It's never a pattern. And nothing has happened to me, right? I am healthy at this moment. So the strong belief system supports a behavior or a habit or a pattern that is already existing in someone's mind and system. Now, when a change happens, there has to be new beliefs that gets created. Again, in the same example, say this person fell ill or say became diabetic or has some health issue, and it became like a joke, like you saw the calm water and the rapids, right? Suddenly now it's a rapid change that this person has to do because the doctor has said, you have to now start exercising. There is no other choice, right? So there is, fear that will drive a new belief, because now you newly believe that without exercising, you're not going to be able to actually deal with your life or something like that. And then things change. So this is like the core of what happens in change. Now, the next one is inability to see ahead or envision a future, because it is difficult to visualize something that we don't have or something that we don't see for now, right? It's not existing in our system at this moment. This is something in the future. And the future, till you actually arrive at the future, what's going to influence is your past, which is your belief system, right? Now, imagine a person, there is a future here, and there is the past, and this person is in the present right now. What will drive things for the future is based on what has happened in the past. In the past, this happened, so my future is going to be like this. Or in this past, this did not happen, so I don't see that coming in my future as well. So every time, and to actually think through and visualize your future, an impact of the past actually happens. And really, nothing much from the present, but this is how the cycle kind of works. So inability to see the future is, even though we say it, I need to be more healthy. I need to, in the same example, saying when I grow much older, I should be able to walk. I should stay healthy. I don't want to go to the hospital or, take medications. But you're still in the present and your past has not happened, or in your environment, maybe your parents were more healthier, maybe so many other things leading to a future that you are at this moment struggling to visualize. So that's the next one. Third one is fear of failure or negative consequences of new action. So what are some fear that we have is, it's like grass is greener on the other side, right? Sometimes it is green, sometimes it is not. So your mind doesn't allow you to think of what can go well, because the mind kind of always tries to safeguard us, and that's how it works. So what will happen is failure as a fear, bigger fear of this new action. Now, if I start doing all of this and nothing changes in the future, then what happens, right? So these kind of questions kind of make you feel like, let me just go with the flow, right? Let me just go with what's happening at the moment. And then the last one is comfort zone, based on all of what we spoke. And that's why I put that in the last, to say comfort zone with the status quo. So what happens with today is fine. Why do I have to change? And this is a interesting question that I get asked in many of my workshops that I've done in organizations and even with individuals. They come and say, you know what, Abhi, why do you want, why should I change? I'm just good in the way I am right now, right? And that could also be, again, in two ways. One is, today nothing happens, so I am fine, right? But tomorrow I don't know, because I can't see ahead and envision a different future. Status quo feels the best and the most right thing at the moment, which is fine, which is fair. But if people who want to change, these are some things unconsciously that will keep coming in the way and push them behind. So it's like moving few steps, pulling back few steps, right? So which is more? If you're moving 4 steps and you're going back 2 steps, you're still going ahead. But if you're taking 1 step and then your pull is 4 steps, then you're actually going behind, right? So these are some things that come up in coaching conversations or conversations that we do that helps people to see it differently and start accepting change from a different lens. So based on those 4 things, I want to bring you a point on saying a day-to-day routine. Like, for example, I have my day. My 24 hours is blocked. I know what I want to do the whole day, and this is how my day is. And now suddenly I want to bring in another activity, a changed activity, a transformational moment in my life, right? Like for saying, I have to start exercising maybe, right? If that's a change that I'm thinking of, then in my whole day, I have to adjust the day and saying, my day has to now look like this. It used to look like this, but now it has to start looking like this, which means if I was doing, say, cooking at that time, I have to find another time to cook, or I have to find some ways to change that. So change is not one change. It's a ripple effect of multiple changes that has to happen to make one change happen. That's why bringing in that change into it. And then we spoke about status quo. Now, because this has to happen, my status quo is okay, so let me just stay in the way things happen, right? So in between my transactional day, how do I start bringing in those smaller moments, which is what I call the transformational moments, and going beyond the routine to create a lasting impact, right? And these moments will have to inspire, it has to evoke some purpose or some fulfillment to say, you know what, in spite of all of this adjustment, this is helpful. If that's how the mind starts looking at change and looking at those transformational things that happen during the day, then change becomes a lot more successful for individuals and teams. You can take an example of teams as well. Teams are used to doing things. And especially when it comes to teams, it's even more complex because it's not one person, but it's a multiple set of people, all of their minds coming in together towards a certain change, each one coming with different belief systems, each one coming with a different thought process and saying, you know what, this is who I was and this is how I have to change. So this is a challenge with individuals, teams, in larger organizations. It's pretty much similar in that way. So the question is, how does someone bring in transformational or change moments into a transactional day and still make it successful? So change and coaching, and how does coaching come into the picture at this moment is coaches serve as catalyst to positive change, right? In supporting. So we kind of hold them through the process, help them uncover things that they're not able to see. So coaches behave like mirrors. They kind of allow everyone to see what they're not seeing, see that future that we spoke about, help them to see what is it in for them and how can they have a perspective of a positive outlook towards the change and not have this concept of change is hard or change is challenging or change is suffering and change is, like we say, change is the most permanent because you keep changing. But then the opposite that goes on in people's mind is, you know what, today's this is how I'm going to remain forever. So change becomes a complex situation where permanence and impermanence are looked at differently, right? So that's how coaches, become change agents. And this is an iceberg. I know, but all of us as coaches, we understand the iceberg and we understand what happens at the bottom and what happens at the top. So as coaches being change, agents and supporting change, what do we try and do is increase self-awareness, right? Build their awareness, build their insights to say, okay, this is what it is. This is why I'm resisting, or this is why I want to do this. So the self-awareness kind of helps, individuals and teams to handle change better, to be able to accept and, go through that process of moving from transactional days, building in those transformation movements, and actually move through slightly more comfortably. And then creating new mental models, which means I have a set of belief systems that is so strong, right? But then for this change to happen, I need to start creating new mental models. And that is how coaching conversations on creating new mental models are very helpful. Next is challenging the status quo. So as coaches, what do? Is we challenge clients, right? We challenge them and nudge them to think from a different side, think from a different perspective. And that helps them to uncover parts, and in fact directly helps them to increase self-awareness as well. So challenging status quo. Supporting visualization of the future, which is supporting them to see what is there in the future, what comes through. And then actions for transformation, which is creating those moments of buckets of, things into their day, smaller actions or bigger actions. It could be a big drastic jump from here to there, but then how do we create actions for those transformation, and handling emotions and overcoming fear. So this is, emotions are the base for every time we change, because not all the time the process is enjoyable. So I'll give you another example. If someone wants to climb, say, Mount Everest, or they want to do something, there is a process. There is a process of going from here to there. And that process is important. And during that process, there is a lot of emotions that everybody goes through. Holding that emotions at that time, understanding it in a deeper sense, helps them to be resilient and move through the change process more easily compared to any other time, right? So having those conversations with coaches definitely supports change. So that's how coaches become change agents, because they support both individuals and teams and organizations to actually move through change in a more systematic way, right? So when we talk about systemic team coaching and we talk about systematic way, this is a system that happens, a system that's there inside us. And then how do we deal with it step by step? But making conscious progress. Like I said, not moving few steps back, but then actually moving forward towards that change. So now we come to this framework that I have, and it's called the PIA dialogue, which is the possibilities, insights, and actions dialogue. And I'm going to take you all through this framework that I've created. And this framework is something that I use with my clients and teams, especially when we go through change. And in this, if you see, there are two circles, point A and point B, which is where the client is, or the person whom we are coaching is at the moment, right? This is where your present is. And then there is a future state, right? A future state, a vision, or a new change. For example, I'm just going with the same example that I was talking about of, becoming more healthy or losing weight or fit, whatever, right? So that's a new vision or a new dream, seeing yourself few pounds less, or maybe, going on a marathon, or seeing yourself being able to do a trek or something like that. That's the future if you have in mind. And this is your current where you struggle to be able to do that. Then the conversation is about the possibility, right? Now, possibilities again are in you can look at it from various ways, right? Again, there's so much possibilities with the word possibility itself. One is what I can see, happen, or the immediate dream or vision that I have. And then because I was able to do that, then what else? That is a conversation altogether where we say, I've lost so many pounds, which is great, which is my dream, which was my vision, a future that where I wanted to be. But because of this future, what do I get? What do I become? I become more maybe efficient. I become more confident. I become whatever. So that's a world of possibility that we're talking about. So what do you get with that future and then beyond that future? And then what do you become as a person? So this is a point A and point B. So we start with the conversation in the possibility insights and action dialogue with seeing the world of possibilities. And then we move into insights. How do you build clarity? So if you see on this side, I'm talking about depth, and that height is the efforts. Now, the more insights we have, which is the more clarity someone is able to get, the better the actions at the top can be, right? The efforts can become better. The efforts will be more. And then the insights kind of drives action. And what drives the insight is the vision of possibilities. So possibilities, insights, and action. And I'm going to take you through a little more to say, how does this happen and what happens? Okay. So the first one, if you see a point A1, so I'm just talking about 2 points, but there could be multiple in between as well. But I'm talking about a space where we say people with minimum insights, right? Who have, say, for example, I want to do this. And the reason is a very simple reason. There is clarity, but then there is minimum insights. And there is willingness to try. Now, willingness is step one, right, into change, because I am willing to take that step or I'm willing to take that effort. So conversations around how willing are you? Someone would come and say, I want to do this, right? But then what's the real willingness? Are you saying it because everybody around you is doing it? Or are you, how willing are you? Because then it's correlating to the possibilities, willingness to actually build shift on top as well, create actions to support that willingness. So willingness, is it real willingness? Is it coming from the environment? Where is this willingness really coming from? How strong is it? So these are some conversations that we have at the start. So when the person goes through that, they start seeing some shift, right? Shift towards this vision or the change that we're talking about. So there is a minimum shift and there is willingness. Now, the steps that I spoke about in the past to say, people keep moving forward, sometimes we kind of move back, is if we stop here, then you only see a minimum shift, right? Now, this minimum shift is not where you really want to be. And then this cycle kind of takes you behind, because after a point, you're not seeing the actual results that you want to see, right? If you stop here. So then what does someone do? What more should someone do? Is building self-awareness of internal and external environment, which is to say what happens internally for me, what's driving me, or what's causing the need for this change from my internal system, and what is coming from outside. Is it a peer pressure? Is it, is it that I see others going through something, so I am scared and I want to build this? Or what is that external environment looking like? What's my internal system trying to tell me? And self-awareness of internal and external environment, plus a solid motivation, willingness, moving into a solid motivation to say, I will do it for whatever reasons, right? And then awareness of barriers, because like I said, there is a pattern, there is a specific habit, and behavior that we've always had. So how does someone notice that? Through self-awareness and actually overcome those barriers, which limits us towards moving and handling the change. Plus deep listening. This deep listening is listening to the self, right? Going on listening to what's going on in the mind. It's like a meditative space where you actually sit quietly and just hear yourself out. And as you do that more and more, moving towards that change becomes easy. So by doing this, what will happen is considerable actions. I'm talking about real good considerable actions that these individual or teams will start making, and they will be able to create new mental models. So now these new mental models help them to overcome those barriers because they're doing deep listening, And then they're creating this solid motivation. And through that, they are able to see, okay, this is my pattern. And I want to shift and create a new pattern, create a new way of thinking. So when you're talking about mental models, it's about understanding from a different level and consciously creating new thinking and mindsets, right? So this is now, again, doing all of this, we're still not in the goal where we want to be, right? What more has to happen is significant courageous actions for success, which means those courageous actions. The reason why I said courageous action, a lot of times individuals or clients that I've worked with, they do considerable actions, right? Because it itself is new changes. They've brought in some, changes in their life. They've already started bringing those transformational moments into their day-to-day life. But it's not enough to get to the vision or the new dream that they want. So what should happen is significant courageous action, which means overcoming all the fears that we spoke about. So relational self-awareness, which is building over the self-awareness of internal and external systems, going beyond just solid motivation, right? So you should go beyond motivation, seeing the possibilities every day. You consciously now able to see those possibilities, plus resilience, because every time when we try and do something, not necessarily it will go the way we would like it to go, right? We might have setbacks. When there are setbacks, again, conversations about how will we overcome those setbacks? What are some things that we will start doing differently so that we stay on course? This is like, if someone has to climb 10 steps, they put a lot of effort. They climb until, say, for example, 8. There are 2 more steps, just 2 more steps ahead. But by the time you're exhausted, you're tired, and then you don't want to move those 2 steps and you say, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this beyond this. I've tried, it isn't working. I don't want to do it. But what we don't see is just those 2 steps. And those last 2 steps is the most challenging 2 steps. And for that, we need that resilience. Come what may, I am going to get this done. So how does someone go through this? The reason why I put it out in this framework is to say, when someone has to go from a position A to a position B and do that travel, it takes a lot of effort. It takes consistent, courageous effort to go through that. The height of efforts depend upon the clarity. The more someone gets clarity, action starts happening. But what I've seen is um, many times when we think of the how do we do this? I want to lose this, or I want to buy this thing, and I want this. The moment that vision is large and vision is big, it's exhausting. Oh my God, I want to get there, right? That seems like a lot of effort, seems exhausting. It seems like a major vision or a dream. I can be comfortable with what I have, right? The mind can say that. So the moment we start seeing possibilities, it can create a reverse effect of exhaustion. Now, when we think of the how, and then we kind of get exhausted and lose it. So instead of starting with the questions of how, usually in coaching, like how we do is the what and the who, right? And the why. If you get more clarity on those, then we start seeing actions are the most easiest to then come into place. So the more the insight. So through this framework, the PIA dialogue, what I try and do or support my clients is to help them to build insights, keeping in the view of possibilities, and then move towards actions. Now, this is what I wanted to bring to all of you and share with all of you today. Hope this was helpful. Hope this was something that you can adapt. You can use in your work. I know if you're a mentors, your coaches, I know all of them are here in the webinar today. If you're a change specialist or someone who's going through just change in yourself, right, in your own life, then just going through these spaces, having those dialogues and conversations at the right time with the right person will really make a difference and help you see things differently overall. So that's what I wanted to bring. And I just want to say and leave all of you with this thought of for anything to work, mind is the key thing, right? Mind is your best friend. If someone, most of the times when someone asks me, what is it that you have? I say, I have a mind. I have a mind that helps me. And that's the same mind. If I don't keep it at check and if I don't keep working on it, can become a friend and a foe, right? So with a mind embracing possibilities, able to see things differently, and a heart fueled with insights, and a body committed to actions, the alchemy of transformative change becomes not just a vision, but a tangible reality. And that's what I want to leave you all with. And I would join you all live today for any Q&As, any questions that you have, feel free to ask. And I'm going to be joining you live in a moment. And if you want to reach out to me, these are my, you can reach me through LinkedIn. You have my email ID and, websites. All of these are available. So I will see you. Thank you very much. And I want to say it again, CC, if I'm again saying it right, but I am so glad that I was able to do this session for all of you there in China, and I will see you live right now. Thank you.
Abby, thank you so much for your fabulous sharing about how coaching can help leaders and the team thrive through change, and especially the IAP framework you created. It's very amazing. Thank you very much. Now we come to the Q&A part, as you see in the chat.
Yes.
We have some questions from the audience, and I will put them one by one in the chat.
Okay.
And the first question, thank you. You already answered. Thank you, but I will read it and translate it for the Chinese, for the audience. 那现在呢，我们进入我们的问答环节。那我也非常感谢我们艾比女士刚才精彩分享。然后大家有什么问题的话，可以在评论区提问。我刚刚也收集了一些观众的那个问题。那第一个问题呢是，就是你是否能够举一个例子，就是我们如何能够帮助，就是别人去设想他们的未来？因为我们前面提到为什么变化如此困难啊，其中一个原因就是我们没有办法，没有能力去设想就是我们的未来。那艾贝女士她呢也给了一个回答，然后初步的回答，她说是其中一个方法，就是很好的可以帮助别人去看见他们未来的方式是通过对话，比如说我们通过教练这样的方式。所以很多时候呢，我们可以就他们现在所处的这个情况，然后去挑战他们，然后呢，同时也要求他们去从其他的角度来看待他们的这个问题，然后去设想、去设想一下这样的一个未来，这样的一个画面。Thank you, Abby. Do you have more about the question?
Sure.
Question from Lily. Yes, Lily, she just wanted, could you say a specific example, just a real case?
Real case of how to envision the future?
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, let me take an example of a client just coming in and saying, I have a specific goal, right? I want to be able to do something. And they come with a little frame of thought about where they want to be. Now, just delving a little more through our coaching conversations enable them to see whether that's a real goal for themselves or not. So sometimes, like, I'll talk about a client. While we can't say much on confidentiality, but then a client walks in and says, I want to quit my job, right? And then through the coaching conversation, what the client actually realized is, I don't want to quit my job. I love my company, right? I just love this place. But then there is something else that caused them to think about it that way. So there is always a clarity. That's why this insights is important, because the more you're able to see and your insights as to why you want to do what you want to do or why you don't want to do something, that enables them to see a future which is real, right? Otherwise, it's still caused by environment, it's still caused by something else and not truly theirs. So that's how I said coaching conversations are very, very helpful for anyone to see something from a different perspective.
Thank you. 那针对这个问题，就是我们如何去帮助别人设想未来。我们举一个实际的一个例子，就是我们 Abby 女士她在平时面对客户过程当中也遇到比如说其中一个情况，就是她的客户她想要离职，但是她也就是遇到了一些问题，因为这个离职并不是出于她的本意，她其实非常喜爱这份工作，非常喜爱这家公司，但是因为其他的一些因素驱使她，然后好像不得不去放弃这个工作。那我们在做导师或教练过程当中呢，我们其实通过提问这样的方式跟对方展开对话。那我们提问的时候呢，就是让他对自己的一个想法有一个清晰的认识，就像我们刚才 IPA 这个框架里面有提到的，就是你要有一个清晰的了解你的洞察力，就是你比如说你想离职，你的这个意愿，它是否是你真实的意愿？你要了解到是否是你的真实的意愿以后，我们来再去设想一个未来。那其实呢，他看到的真正他的意愿，其实他并不想离开这家公司。那在这种情况下，我们可以再帮他想一想，如果他没有离开这家公司，那他的未来又是怎样的？我们主要是通过一种对话的方式，通过这样让对方从积极的去看清自己真实的意愿。Thank you. Now we come to the second question. 那我们现在来看第二个问题。
Yeah.
What if I changed, but I failed and suffered a lot? How can I deal with this situation? 那第二
Okay.
个问题呢，就是我们一直讲到这个变革变化。那比如说对于我个人而言，我做出了改变，但是我失败了，而且这个过程让我感到很痛苦。那我如何面对我所处的境地？
Thank you. This is an interesting question, I see, because this also I get asked a lot. And in fact, that's what I try to tell in the webinar as well. So when we change, right, what are we changing for? And that's why the insights are very important. If I am able to get clarity as to what's causing this change for me or the need for change, for example, before even we go on the process, then you will land up suffering less because you're more intuitive, right? You know what you want to do, and that's how you're going to go in front. Sometimes what happens is we go through some change. We want to do something not because we want it, because someone else wants it, or it's caused by so many other reasons. And that when we actually even achieve it, we don't feel happy. We don't feel satisfied, right? So if there is something like that that's happening, then we need to think back and say, what is the process? Did I enjoy the process? Was it really the change that I wanted to take on? And say someone has gone through it and then they feel they have failed, but there is still a lot of learning. There is still so much change that has happened. So the person now can, from here, see it differently and start moving forward. I mean, failures are always there in everyone's life, right? So if something has caused it, that could be a learning. And then the next change that we take on, or the next goal or dream that we try and set for ourselves, we can do it with more clarity and insights.
Thank you. Abby 女士的回答呢是说，就是如果我们因为这种情况其实非常常见，那她也在她的平时的工作中也遇到很多这样的问题，就是我失败了，我变化了，但是失败了，然后该如何面对，我该如何处理这种情况？那其实首先呢，就是我们有一个清晰的洞察力，就是知道我们这个变化到底是为了什么。因为这个，比如说因为我们的变化呢，可能是因为某种需求，那我们为此呢要付出很多，然后去经历这个过程。那有一个问题就是，首先这个变化它是不是你真实想要去实现的，还是说这个是别人就是强加给你的，你需要做出某种改变？那你就是实现了，因为有时候我们做出某种变化，其实是因为别人希望我们怎么做，那我们做到了，但其实我们也并不是那么开心。那你就要想你自己是否享受这个变化的过程，啊，这个真正是我想要的吗？那其实在整个变化过程当中，对我们也是一种学习和成长，我们也同样能够 就学到很多，同样能够从不同的角度来看待这整个事件的一个过程，它的发生。因为失败呢，我们知道失败就是乃兵家常事的事，它是我们就是每个人是在日常生活中会经常遇到的。那重要的呢，是我们才从这个失败中我们能学到什么？我们知道在此基础上，我们下一次我们能够做出什么样的变化？我们能否有一个新的目标？那这样呢，就是帮助我们去有就是更多的这个洞察力，能够对自己的一个想法以及对下一次的就是情况，日后的改变、日后的情况有一个更清晰的认识。那总体来说呢，就是我们要能够真正的从中就是学到一些东西，然后帮助我们去是经历就后面的我们的生活和工作。Thank you for your answer. And we have another question.
Sure.
The third question is, my team is experience a change. The members have different minds towards it. Some are positive, but some are negative. And how can I help those who are negative change their minds? 那第
Yeah.
三个问题呢是说，就是我的团队我们正在经历一次变革，但因为成员里面的各个成员，他们对这次变革有不同的想法、不同的态度。那有的人是比较积极的，但是有些人又比较消极的。那我如何能够去就是转变那些比较消极的人他们的想法跟态度？Thank you,
Okay.
please.
Thank you, Icy. Thank you, Jack, for the question. So I work as a team coach, right? So I work with organizations where teams go through changes, and no two people in the same team actually accept change in the same way. It could look like some are, positive about it, some are negative about it, but predominantly, if you look at everyone in the team looks at change differently, and they need a different approach towards the same change. Now, when you're thinking of the people who have a negative mindset about the change, then something is triggering that for them, right? There is something about it that's not sitting well in their mind. It's against their belief system. So if you notice in the webinar, I spoke about those aspects, those 4 key things about their own belief system and their own fear about what is this new future going to look like, right? So if those conversations are happening with them, making them voice out what's that which is stopping them from accepting this change, then you will see, there is not, that's not the resistance. It's just that I haven't understood this clearly. I haven't understood the change clearly and what I need to do for the change and how this change is going to change my personal future, right? Having those conversations with your team members will be largely benefiting them to overcome those thoughts and be more receptive to the change initiatives that's happening.
Thank you. 那对于我们团队中就是不同的成员，然后对于变革这个是有不同的这个态度的时候呢，因为我们知道，就是我自己本身呢也是一个团队教练，那我们也知道，其实每个人可能对同一件事情，对相同的变革，他的这个想法是不一样的，然后他的态度，然后包括他做事的方式呢都是不一样的。那我们首先要了解，就是这些态度比较消极的人，他本身其实是他可能有一个，因为他的信念系统，就我们提到的，为什么变革如此艰难？因为大家可能有一个固有的一个信念，然后也可能比如说害怕，就是这个变革可能带来的失败或者是一些消极的后果。那我们在对话过程当中要帮助对方，就是这个消极的人了解。首先是到底是什么阻碍了他们，就是有产生这样就是消极的想法，因为他们可能并不是说真的对这个变革有很多的抵触心理，其实更多的其实是因为他们还对这个变革，他们还没有一个清晰的认识，他可能还没有真正的理解我们这次的变革到底是什么样子的，那以及这些变革他对自己个人的未来也会有什么样的影响，他可能这个没有一个明确的认识。那我们呢，就是要帮助他们去能够清晰的去了解这次变革，就是对他们可能带来的好处，然后让对方从心态上对这次变革能够有更加接受的一个心理。 Thank you for your answer. 那我们在场的在线观看的朋友们，大家还有没有其他的问题？OK，那基于时间问题的话，我们今天呢就是问答环节呢也先到这里。Thank you, Abby. And now I think that's all for the Q&A part. If you have more questions, I will email you about them. And
Sure.
I'll also email you about the audience, how many people are watching the webinar at the end.
Yes, I would love to know that. Thank you so much, Icy, and thank you everyone for listening through the session. And you can try using the PAA for all of the conversations, just trying and building insights to help them take actions. So yeah, and anytime, reach out to me, ask me any more questions, and then I'll be happy to support and answer them.
Thank you again so much. Thank you so much for being us in the morning, and thank you for your great sharing. And thank you. It's about 9 p.m. in the evening there on your side, yes?
9:30. Yes, 9:30 here.
Thank you very much. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Icy. Thank you, Min, and thanks to Fisher for having me over here. I'm glad that I was able to partner with Mentoring for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
好，那刚刚呢是我们就是艾比女士今天针对变革这个话题然后所做的分享。那我在这里呢也在做一个预告，就是我们的国际职业导师认证课程呢将于明年1月开课。那感兴趣的朋友呢可以就是加入我们。那我们这个国际导师认证课程呢，它是欧洲导师与教练协会是他们经过认证的，我们课程的服务标准、质量，然后人员都是经过 EMCC 认证的。那关于这个国际职业导师认证课程，然后大家学了以后呢，我们会发现我们的课程有几项特色。首先，第一个，我们的课程它是可以帮助，就是我们导师可以帮助学员选对方向。就我们首先是帮助学员明确他的一个目标发展方向，那在此基础上，然后帮助学员去挖掘他的潜能，然后快速有效的达成目标。那第二个是我们的课程，我们导师可以帮助我们的学员去提升他的能量，因为不只是我们推进一个事物的完成，就更重要的是我们积极的提升我们学员的状态。第三个是我们可以既帮助学员去激活他内在的资源，也可以帮助他去发现并激活更多的外在资源。那第四个是我们的导师辅导，这个成果是可以量化的，不管是我们的 KPI 还是 KBI， 甚至 ROI 都是可以被有效计量的。那第五个也是我们的一个特色，是我们导师他具备的一个技能，是他不仅可以去帮向学员传承自己的经验和智慧，也可以去通过萃取他人那个出色的技能来传承给学员。那如果大家对我们这个课程就感兴趣的话，可以扫下方的2维码，然后联系我们。那我们这次课程呢，名额呢也是有限的，然后希望有大家感兴趣的话，可以积极的联系我们。那在这里我们再做一下我们下期的讲座预告，是第66场，是由来自英国的 Elizabeth 女士来给我们主讲，她带来的话题是关于正念领导力教练。感兴趣的朋友可以扫我们左下方的2维码，然后联系我们，然后报名参加这次的讲座，与我们的讲师，然后面对面的去交流沟通。好，今天的讲座就到这里，非常感谢大家的参与。那我们也希望能够大家留下自己的宝贵建议，然后帮助我们 进一步做得更好。非常感谢大家今天的参与，我们下期再见。